It was a chilly Monday morning, and the boardroom on the 25th floor of an upscale corporate building buzzed with anticipation. Executives from different companies had gathered to discuss a major merger that could reshape their industry. They were dressed in expensive suits, carrying leather briefcases, and speaking confidently about numbers, strategies, and partnerships. The room smelled of fresh coffee and polished wood, a sign of luxury and power. Among them sat Michelle Thompson, a poised and confident woman in her mid-30s. She wore a tailored navy blue suit, her hair neatly styled, and her posture calm yet commanding. Michelle didn't look out of place, but there was something unusual about her presence, something no one in the room realized at first. This wasn't just another meeting for Michelle. It was her meeting. Literally. Michelle had recently purchased the entire building through a smart real estate deal. However, she hadn't announced her ownership yet. Today, she planned to reveal it during the meeting as part of her strategy to rebrand the property into a hub for innovative startups. But before she could even settle into her seat, trouble began brewing. A security guard entered the room quietly, his eyes scanning the group of executives. When his gaze landed on Michelle, he paused. Something about her seemed off to him, not because of how she carried herself, but because of preconceived ideas about who belonged in such spaces. "Excuse me, ma'am," the security guard said firmly, interrupting the low hum of conversation. "This is a private meeting. Are you sure you're supposed to be here?" The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at Michelle, some raising eyebrows while others exchanged whispers. For a moment, Michelle felt the familiar sting of judgment, the kind she'd faced many times before as a black woman navigating predominantly white male-dominated spaces. People often doubted her abilities or questioned whether she truly belonged in positions of authority. Yet, instead of reacting defensively, Michelle simply smiled. "Yes," she replied calmly. "I'm exactly where I need to be." Her response didn't satisfy the guard. He frowned, glancing around the table at the other attendees. To him, they all looked like typical high-powered professionals, well-dressed, serious, and confident. Michelle, on the other hand, stood out, not because she lacked professionalism, but because of biases he didn't even realize he held. "I'll need to see some ID," the guard insisted, his tone firmer this time. Michelle reached into her bag, without hesitation, and pulled out her driver's license. As she handed it over, she noticed the subtle smirks on a few faces across the table. Some whispered behind their hands. One executive leaned over to his neighbor and muttered, "Do you think she's lost? Maybe she wandered into the wrong room." Another chimed in, "Could be a journalist trying to sneak in." Michelle heard every word but chose not to engage. Instead, she opened her laptop and began reviewing the presentation slides she'd prepared. Her focus remained unshaken, even as the murmurs grew louder. She knew this wasn't the first time. Someone had doubted her, and it wouldn't be the last. Growing up, Michelle had been told more than once that she didn't look like a CEO. But each challenge only fueled her determination to prove them wrong. The security guard examined her ID carefully, then stepped aside to make a phone call. Meanwhile, tension filled the air. The executives continued whispering among themselves, speculating about who Michelle might be. One man joked loudly, "Maybe she's here to serve us coffee." A few chuckled nervously, though others shot him disapproving looks. For Michelle, these moments felt like a test, a reminder of why she worked so hard to break barriers. She reminded herself that success wasn't just about proving people wrong. It was about staying focused on her goals and refusing to let negativity derail her. So she kept her eyes on her laptop screen, mentally rehearsing her presentation. She knew that soon enough the truth would come out, and when it did, the room would change forever. As the guard returned with a manager, the atmosphere grew heavier. The manager looked equally confused, glancing between Michelle and the rest of the group. "Ms. Thompson," he said hesitantly, "we apologize for the confusion, but we weren't expecting anyone else to join this meeting." Michelle raised an eyebrow. "That's odd," she said smoothly, "considering I own this building." The room froze. No one spoke. No one moved. For a brief moment, it felt like time itself had stopped. Then, slowly, reality began to sink in for everyone except Michelle, who remained perfectly composed. What happened next would leave a lasting impression on everyone in that room. The room was silent after Michelle's calm declaration. Her words hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and undeniable. "That's odd," she had said, her voice smooth and steady, "considering I own this building." Everyone stared at her, their expressions ranging from shock to disbelief. Even the manager and the security guard exchanged puzzled glances, unsure how to respond. "Excuse me?" the manager finally managed to say, his voice trembling slightly. He looked at Michelle as if seeing her for the first time. "You own this building?" "Yes," Michelle replied, her tone unwavering. She leaned back in her chair, crossing one leg over the other, exuding an air of quiet confidence. "And since I'm funding this merger, I thought it would be prudent to attend." The room erupted into murmurs. Some executives whispered urgently to their neighbors, while others simply sat frozen, trying to process what they'd just heard. One man, who had been sipping his coffee moments earlier, choked on it and coughed loudly, breaking the tension momentarily. The same people who had doubted Michelle's presence now scrambled to regain composure. Greg Harris, the CFO of Apex Tech, quickly stood up and extended his hand toward Michelle. "I'm Greg Harris," he said, his voice overly enthusiastic. "Pleased to meet you, Ms. Thompson." Others followed suit, introducing themselves with forced smiles and exaggerated handshakes. Michelle accepted each greeting graciously, though she couldn't help but notice the shift in energy. Just minutes ago, these same individuals had questioned her right to be in the room. Now they were tripping over themselves to make amends. The security guard, meanwhile, looked mortified. His face turned bright red as he stammered an apology. "Ms. Thompson, I had no idea. We were just doing our job. Please forgive the misunderstanding." Michelle nodded, her expression softening slightly. "I understand," she said, "but perhaps next time you'll remember that appearances can be deceiving." Her words carried weight, not just for the guard, but for everyone in the room. It was a subtle reminder that assumptions based on race, gender, or appearance could lead to embarrassing and sometimes costly mistakes. As the initial shock began to wear off, the meeting resumed, albeit with a very different tone. Michelle took charge, standing up and addressing the group. "Thank you all for coming today," she began, her voice clear and commanding. "As you've just learned, I own this building. More importantly, I believe in fostering innovation and collaboration among forward-thinking companies. That's why I'm excited to propose this merger." She launched into her presentation, outlining her vision for transforming the building into a state-of-the-art workspace designed to attract cutting-edge businesses. Her ideas were bold yet practical, backed by solid data and market research. The executives listened intently, their earlier skepticism replaced by genuine interest. At one point, a senior partner named Mark leaned forward and asked, "Ms. Thompson, forgive me for asking, but how did you manage to acquire this property?" "It's quite a feat." Michelle smiled knowingly. "Hard work, strategic investments, and knowing when to take calculated risks," she replied. "Sometimes you have to bet on yourself even when others don't." Her answer resonated deeply, especially with the younger members of the team. They admired her confidence and resilience, qualities that had clearly played a role in her success. Sarah, a marketing director from one of the participating companies, found herself particularly inspired. She had faced similar challenges early in her career and recognized the strength it took to overcome them. As Michelle continued her presentation, the atmosphere in the room transformed completely. What had started as a tense and awkward gathering evolved into a collaborative discussion filled with excitement and possibility. The executives peppered Michelle with questions, eager to learn more about her plans for the building and how they could contribute to its success. By the end of the meeting, it was clear that Michelle had won them over, not just with her business acumen, but also with her grace under pressure. The initial misunderstanding had inadvertently become a turning point, forcing everyone to confront their biases and rethink their assumptions. When the meeting concluded, several executives approached Michelle to express their admiration. Greg Harris shook her hand again, this time with genuine respect. "Ms. Thompson, I must say you've impressed us all today," he said. "Not only with your vision, but with how you handled yourself. Most people would have been rattled, but you stayed composed." Michelle accepted the compliment with a modest smile. "Thank you, Greg," she replied. "But let's focus on what really matters, the opportunity ahead of us. Together, we can create something truly remarkable." As the group dispersed, Michelle remained seated for a moment, reflecting on the events of the morning. She knew there would always be skeptics, people quick to judge based on superficial factors rather than substance. But she also knew that true strength lay in refusing to let those doubts define her. Every challenge was an opportunity to rise above expectations, and today she had done just that. Outside the boardroom window, the city stretched out below, alive with activity. Michelle gazed at the skyline, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. This building wasn't just a structure, it was a symbol of possibility, a testament to what could be achieved when barriers were broken and opportunities embraced. As Michelle stepped out of the boardroom, the weight of what had just happened began to sink in. Not just for her, but for everyone else in the room. The initial shock of realizing that Michelle owned the building they were sitting in had given way to a mix of admiration, curiosity, and even guilt. For some, it was a wake-up call about their own biases and assumptions. For others, it was an inspiring moment that reminded them of the power of resilience and determination. Back inside the boardroom, conversations continued to buzz. Greg Harris, the CFO who had earlier joked about Michelle possibly being there to serve coffee, now found himself reflecting on his words. He felt a pang of embarrassment as he replayed the scene in his mind. "I can't believe I said that," he muttered under his breath to Sarah, the marketing director seated beside him. Sarah nodded sympathetically. "We all made mistakes today," she replied softly. "But the real lesson is how she handled it. She didn't lash out or get defensive. She stayed calm and proved us all wrong." Greg sighed. "You're right, and honestly, I think we could all learn something from her. She's not just smart, she's classy." Their conversation was interrupted when Michelle re-entered the room, carrying a stack of documents and a sleek tablet. She placed them neatly on the table and addressed the group again. "Now that we've cleared up the confusion," she said with a hint of humor in her voice, "let's dive deeper into why we're here today." Her ability to move past the awkwardness and refocus on the task at hand earned her even more respect. The executives leaned forward, eager to hear her plans. Michelle began by explaining her vision for the building, a modern, innovative workspace designed to attract startups and creative companies. She showed renderings of open-plan offices, co-working spaces, rooftop gardens, and state-of-the-art tech amenities. "This isn't just a building," Michelle emphasized. "It's a community. A place where ideas are born, collaborations thrive, and businesses grow. My goal is to create an environment where people feel inspired to push boundaries and achieve greatness." Her passion was contagious. The room lit up with energy as she spoke. Questions poured in, ranging from logistical details to long-term goals. One executive asked, "How do you plan to fund these renovations? This sounds like a massive undertaking." Michelle smiled confidently. "Through strategic partnerships," she explained. "That's where all of you come in. By investing in this project, you're not just supporting a single property. You're contributing to a movement. Together, we can redefine what workspaces look like and set new standards for innovation." The idea resonated deeply with the group. Startups and tech companies were booming, and having a cutting-edge facility would give them a competitive edge. Plus, aligning themselves with someone as visionary as Michelle seemed like a smart move. As the discussion unfolded, Sarah raised her hand hesitantly. "Ms. Thompson," she began, "forgive me if this is too personal, but I have to ask, how did you get started? You must have faced so many obstacles along the way." Michelle paused, considering the question. She appreciated Sarah's honesty and decided to share a bit of her journey. "When I first entered the world 延超出场度限制，我将继续完成剩余部分。以下是继续的内容." Michelle paused, considering the question. She appreciated Sarah's honesty and decided to share a bit of her journey. When I first entered the business world, I faced plenty of challenges, she admitted. People often underestimated me because of my background and appearance, but instead of letting that discourage me, I used it as motivation. I worked twice as hard, learned everything I could, and surrounded myself with mentors who believed in me. She paused for a moment, her eyes scanning the room. There will always be doubters, she continued. But the key is to focus on your goals and prove them wrong, not through arguments but through actions. Every setback is an opportunity to grow stronger. Her words struck a chord with everyone present. Even those who had initially doubted her now saw her in a new light, not just as a successful businesswoman, but as a role model for perseverance and resilience. By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere had shifted entirely. What had begun as a tense and awkward gathering had transformed into a collaborative and inspiring session. The executives left the room buzzing with excitement, already discussing how they could contribute to Michelle's vision. Later that afternoon, Michelle stood by the large window overlooking the city. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the skyline. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not just because of the day's events, but because she had turned a potentially negative situation into a powerful statement. As she reflected on the day, she realized that moments like these were opportunities to challenge stereotypes and inspire change. Her ownership of the building wasn't just about financial success. It was about creating spaces where everyone, regardless of race or gender, could thrive. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Sarah, the marketing director. "Ms. Thompson, do you have a moment?" she asked hesitantly. "Of course," Michelle replied warmly, gesturing for her to sit down. Sarah took a seat, looking slightly nervous. "I wanted to thank you for today and for sharing your story. It meant a lot to me. I've been in similar situations before, and hearing you talk about overcoming doubt, well, it gave me hope." Michelle smiled gently. "Thank you for saying that, Sarah. We all face challenges, but the important thing is to keep pushing forward. If my story can help even one person believe in themselves, then it's worth it." Sarah nodded, gratitude shining in her eyes. "You're truly remarkable, Ms. Thompson. I hope we can work together more in the future." "I'd like that," Michelle said sincerely. "And please call me Michelle." As Sarah left the room, Michelle returned to the window, watching the city lights flicker to life. She knew there would still be skeptics and doubters along the way, but she also knew that every step she took brought her closer to breaking barriers and paving the way for others. This building wasn't just hers. It was a symbol of possibility, a testament to what could be achieved when courage met opportunity. And as she stood there, bathed in the fading sunlight, Michelle felt ready to take on whatever came next. The days following the boardroom meeting were a whirlwind of activity for Michelle. News of her ownership spread quickly, not just within the companies involved in the merger, but throughout the industry. Headlines popped up online. Black woman business mogul takes over corporate building, and meet the visionary behind the city's newest innovation hub. Social media buzzed with admiration, curiosity, and even some criticism from skeptics who questioned how someone so young and seemingly unassuming could achieve such success. But Michelle didn't let any of it distract her. She had always known that being in the spotlight came with both praise and scrutiny. Instead of focusing on what others said, she poured her energy into finalizing plans for the building's transformation. Architects, designers, and contractors flooded her office, presenting ideas and blueprints. Every detail mattered to Michelle, from the eco-friendly materials used in construction to the inclusive policies that would govern the workspace. Meanwhile, the executives who had attended the meeting began reaching out, eager to solidify their roles in the project. Greg Harris, the CFO who had once joked about Michelle serving coffee, sent an email expressing his enthusiasm. "Ms. Thompson," he wrote, "I'm truly impressed by your vision and would love to discuss how Apex Tech can partner with you to make this innovation hub a reality." Michelle appreciated the gesture but reminded herself not to forget the initial doubt these individuals had shown. Still, she understood that people could grow and change. When Greg called to schedule a follow-up meeting, she agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to turn skepticism into collaboration. At the next meeting, held in a smaller conference room, Michelle arrived early. This time, no one questioned her presence. In fact, several executives greeted her warmly, shaking her hand and complimenting her leadership style. It was clear they wanted to repair their earlier missteps and align themselves with her vision. Once everyone settled in, Michelle opened the discussion by acknowledging the elephant in the room. "Let's be honest," she said with a small smile. "Our first meeting didn't go quite as planned, but I believe mistakes are opportunities to learn and improve. That's why I'm here, to work together and create something extraordinary." Her words set the tone for the rest of the meeting. The group dove into specifics, discussing funding models, tenant partnerships, and marketing strategies. Michelle listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering solutions that showcased her expertise. By the end of the session, the executives left feeling motivated and aligned with her goals. One standout moment came when Sarah, the marketing director, pitched an idea for promoting diversity and inclusion within the Innovation Hub. "We should prioritize supporting women-owned and minority-led businesses," she suggested. "Not only is it the right thing to do, but studies show diverse teams drive better results." Michelle nodded approvingly. "I couldn't agree more," she said. "Inclusion isn't just a buzzword, it's a necessity. Let's make sure our policies reflect that." Sarah beamed at the endorsement, thrilled to see her idea embraced by someone she admired. For Michelle, moments like these reinforced why she had chosen this path. Building a space that empowered underrepresented groups wasn't just good business, it was personal. Outside of meetings, Michelle faced challenges beyond the boardroom. Some tenants already leasing offices in the building expressed concerns about the renovations. A few older companies worried that the influx of startups might disrupt their operations. Others complained about potential rent increases. Rather than dismissing their worries, Michelle scheduled town hall sessions to address their concerns directly. Standing in front of a packed auditorium, she spoke candidly about her plans. "Change can be uncomfortable," she admitted. "But my goal isn't to push anyone out. It's to build a community where everyone thrives. If you have concerns, share them with me. Together, we'll find solutions." Her transparency won over many skeptics. One tenant, a middle-aged man, named Richard, approached her after the session. "I'll admit I was skeptical at first," he confessed. "But hearing you talk tonight made me realize you're not just focused on profits, you genuinely care about people." Michelle smiled. "Thank you, Richard, that means a lot." As weeks turned into months, progress on the building accelerated. Construction crews worked tirelessly, transforming outdated spaces into modern marvels. Glass walls replaced cubicles, natural light streamed through skylights, and vibrant murals adorned the walls. The rooftop garden became a favorite feature during tours, offering breathtaking views of the city skyline. During this time, Michelle also took steps to ensure the building's culture reflected her values. She hired a diverse team of managers and implemented programs to support entrepreneurs from marginalized communities. Workshops, networking events, and mentorship opportunities were scheduled regularly, fostering collaboration and growth. Word of the project spread far beyond the city limits. Entrepreneurs, investors, and innovators from across the country reached out, eager to be part of the initiative. Even national media outlets picked up the story, highlighting Michelle's journey and the impact of her work. Despite the growing recognition, Michelle remained grounded. She often reminded herself of the struggles she'd faced along the way, the lenders who refused to take her seriously, the colleagues who dismissed her ideas, the countless times she'd been underestimated. Each challenge had strengthened her resolve, teaching her to trust her instincts and stay true to her vision. One evening, as she stood on the newly completed rooftop garden, Michelle reflected on how far she'd come. The city lights twinkled below, a reminder of the endless possibilities ahead. She thought about the people who had doubted her, the ones who had supported her, and the countless others who would walk through the doors of this building, chasing their dreams. A soft breeze rustled her hair as she gazed at the horizon, For Michelle, this wasn't just a building, it was a legacy, a testament to resilience, determination, and the power of believing in oneself. As the final touches were added to the building's transformation, Michelle found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. It wasn't just the physical renovation of the property that stood out to her. It was the lessons she'd learned along the way. Every challenge, every doubt, and every victory had shaped her into the person she was today. And as she prepared for the grand opening of the Innovation Hub, she realized that these experiences held valuable insights not only for herself, but also for others. The day before the official launch, Michelle hosted a small gathering in the newly completed rooftop garden. She invited key members of her team, close friends, and a few mentors who had supported her throughout her career. The evening air was cool, and the city lights twinkled below, creating a serene atmosphere. As everyone mingled, Michelle took a moment to address the group. "I wanted to thank all of you for being part of this journey," she began, her voice warm and sincere. "This building represents more than just an investment or a workspace. It's a symbol of what can happen when we refuse to let fear or doubt hold us back." Her words resonated deeply with those present. Sarah, the marketing director who had become one of Michelle's closest allies, nodded thoughtfully. "It's inspiring to see how far you've come," she said. "And honestly, I think your story is exactly what people need to hear right now." Michelle smiled, appreciating the compliment but knowing it wasn't just about her. "It's not just my story," she replied. "We all face challenges. What matters is how we respond to them. For me, every obstacle has been a lesson, a chance to grow stronger and wiser." She went on to share some of the key lessons she'd learned during this process. 1. Believe in yourself, even when others don't. Michelle recounted the countless times she'd been underestimated, whether by lenders who doubted her ability to secure financing or by executives who questioned her presence in the boardroom. "There will always be skeptics," she said, "but their opinions don't define you. Trust your instincts, work hard, and prove them wrong, not through arguments but through results." She emphasized that self-belief wasn't about arrogance, it was about resilience. "You have to bet on yourself even when no one else does," she added, "because if you don't believe in your dreams, who will? And surround yourself with supportive people." Michelle acknowledged that she hadn't achieved success alone. From her mentors to her team, she credited much of her progress to the people who had believed in her vision. "Find your tribe," she advised. "Seek out people who uplift you, challenge you, and push you to be your best self. Success isn't a solo journey." She shared a story about one particular mentor, a retired real estate developer, who had taken Michelle under his wing early in her career. "He taught me everything I know about negotiating deals and spotting opportunities," she said. "Without him, I wouldn't be standing here today." 3. Use challenges as fuel. For Michelle, adversity had been a powerful motivator. Whether it was facing rejection from investors or dealing with criticism online, each setback had pushed her to work harder and smarter. "Don't let obstacles discourage you," she told the group. "Use them as fuel to keep going. Every no brings you closer to a yes." She recalled the security guard incident in the boardroom, which had initially stung but ultimately strengthened her resolve. "That moment reminded me why I started this journey in the first place, to break barriers and create opportunities for people like me. If anything, it made me more determined to succeed." Lead with empathy and integrity. One of Michelle's core values was leading with empathy. Throughout the renovation process, she had prioritized listening to tenants' concerns and ensuring their needs were met. "Leadership isn't about power, it's about service," she explained. "When you lead with integrity and put people first, they'll respect and trust you." She pointed to the town hall sessions she'd held with existing tenants as an example. By addressing their worries openly and transparently, she had turned potential opponents into advocates. "Empathy builds bridges," she said. "It creates connections that last." Stay grounded and grateful. Despite her achievements, Michelle remained humble. She often reminded herself of where she came from, a modest upbringing in a tight-knit community, and the sacrifices her family had made to support her dreams. Success can change you if you let it, she warned. Stay grounded by remembering your roots and expressing gratitude for the people who helped you along the way. She ended her speech by thanking everyone in attendance once again. This building may bear my name, but it belongs to all of us, she said. Together we've created something special. Let's continue to inspire, innovate, and make a difference. After the gathering, Michelle stayed behind to enjoy the quiet solitude of the rooftop garden. As she gazed at the city skyline, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This project wasn't just about business. It was about creating a space where people could dream big and achieve greatness. She thought about the entrepreneurs who would soon walk through the doors of the Innovation Hub, bringing fresh ideas and boundless energy. She imagined the collaborations that would take place, the friendships that would form, and the lives that would be changed. For Michelle, that was the true reward. The knowledge that she had built something meaningful, something that would endure long after she was gone. As the night grew darker, Michelle whispered a silent promise to herself. This is just the beginning. The grand opening of the Innovation Hub was nothing short of spectacular. Invitations had been sent out weeks in advance, and the guest list read like a who's who of the business world. Entrepreneurs, investors, journalists, and community. Leaders all eager to witness the unveiling of Michelle Thompson's vision. The event was held on a crisp Friday evening, with the rooftop garden serving as the perfect backdrop. Strings of fairy lights illuminated the space, casting a soft glow over the crowd. A jazz band played soothing melodies, while waiters circulated, with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Michelle stood at the center of it all, dressed in a sleek black dress that exuded elegance without overshadowing her warmth. She greeted guests with a genuine smile, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries. But beneath her composed exterior, she felt a mix of excitement and nostalgia. This moment marked not just the culmination of months of hard work, but also the beginning of something much bigger, a legacy she hoped would inspire future generations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Michelle stepped onto a small stage set up near the edge of the rooftop. The chatter died down as everyone turned their attention to her. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the occasion settle on her shoulders. But instead of fear, she felt pride. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, her voice steady and clear. "This building represents more than bricks and mortar. It's a testament to what can happen when we dare to dream big and refuse to let obstacles stand in our way." Her words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom knew fragments of her story. They applauded warmly, encouraging her to continue. Michelle went on to share her vision for the hub, a place where creativity would flourish, collaboration would thrive, and inclusivity would be non-negotiable. "This isn't just a workspace," she emphasized. "It's a community, a home for innovators, thinkers, and doers. Whether you're a startup founder, an artist, or a seasoned entrepreneur, this is your space to create, connect, and grow." She highlighted some of the features that made the building unique. Co-working areas designed for flexibility, private offices equipped with cutting-edge technology, wellness rooms for mental health breaks, and even childcare facilities for working parents. Every detail had been carefully considered to ensure the hub catered to diverse needs. One feature drew particularly enthusiastic applause: the dedication of an entire floor to supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs. Dubbed the Equity Floor, it offered subsidized rents, mentorship programs, and access to venture capital networks specifically for women, minorities, and LGBTQ+ business owners. Michelle explained that this initiative was close to her heart, born out of her own experiences facing barriers early in her career. "This floor is proof that diversity isn't just good for business. It's essential," she said. "When we lift each other up, we all rise higher." After her speech, Michelle invited attendees to explore the building. Guided tours led groups through the state-of-the-art facilities, showcasing everything from the open-plan offices to the rooftop garden. Along the way, visitors marveled at the thoughtful design elements: natural light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, ergonomic furniture, and art installations celebrating local talent. Sarah, the marketing director who had become one of Michelle's closest allies, walked alongside her during the tour. "You've really outdone yourself," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "I can already picture the impact this place will have." Michelle nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It's not about me," she replied. "It's about what happens next. The startups that will launch here, the jobs that will be created, the lives that will change. That's what matters." In the weeks following the grand opening, the Innovation Hub quickly became a beacon of progress and possibility. Entrepreneurs flocked to rent spaces, drawn not only by the prime location but also by the sense of belonging the hub fostered. Networking events and workshops filled the calendar, creating opportunities for collaboration and growth. Local media hailed the project as a game-changer, praising Michelle's leadership and commitment to inclusivity. But perhaps the most rewarding aspect for Michelle was seeing the equity floor come alive. Startups led by women and minorities thrived under the supportive environment, securing funding and partnerships that might otherwise have eluded them. One tenant, a young black woman named Jasmine, approached Michelle one afternoon with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," Jasmine said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Without this space, I don't know if my business would have made it. You've given us a chance to prove ourselves, and that means everything." Michelle hugged her tightly, feeling a lump rise in her throat. "This is why I did it," she whispered. "To give people like you a fair shot." As the months passed, Michelle continued to pour her energy into the hub, ensuring its success wasn't fleeting, but sustainable. She traveled to conferences and panels, sharing her story and advocating for greater diversity in entrepreneurship. Her message resonated far beyond the city limits, inspiring others to challenge stereotypes and pursue their dreams. At the same time, she remained grounded, often returning to the rooftop garden to reflect on how far she'd come. On quiet evenings, she would sit there alone, watching the city lights flicker below. Each twinkle reminded her of a dream taking flight, her own and those of the countless individuals who had found a home within the walls of the Innovation Hub. One such evening, as Michelle gazed at the skyline, she received a text message from Greg Harris, the CFO who had once joked about her serving coffee. The message read, "You've changed the game, Michelle. Thank you for showing us what true leadership looks like." Michelle smiled softly, typing back a simple reply. "Thank you for believing in the vision. Together, we're making history." For Michelle, this was more than a professional milestone. It was a personal triumph. She had faced doubt, bias, and adversity, but she had risen above them all, proving that resilience and determination could move mountains. The building wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone who dared to dream. And as she sat there, surrounded by the hum of the city and the promise of endless possibilities, Michelle knew she had done exactly what she set out to do. Break barriers, build bridges, and leave a lasting legacy. The journey wasn't over, it was just beginning.